The seller sees his house valued at one number. An appraiser sees it at a different number. A buyer sees it at a different number. But guess who the most important person in this transaction is?
Welcome to We Fix Real Estate. Today we have Mark Levy on the show, Jen May, and Fred Glick, and we are talking about the hidden costs of overpricing your home in local markets. How maybe not something you want to do. Welcome to the show, Fred.
Hey, how are you?
Break this down. Break it down. What is overpricing? Why is it so bad?
The seller sees his house valued at one number. An appraiser sees it at a different number. A buyer sees it at a different number. But guess who the most important person in this transaction is the buyer. So it doesn't matter what you think your house is worth. It just doesn't. Because somebody's got to pony up dollar bills, mortgages, whatever, to be able to buy your house and say, that's worth X to me. So, we look at the far craziness. So if you look at, I always like to use Cupertino with the great schools, NVIDIA, Apple, they're all there. Everybody wants a single family house. It's gorgeous and the neighborhood. And so there's 28 people bidding. So, what the asking price is completely irrelevant, even if it's high, because people are just going to bid what they're going to bid and they're going to beat each other up to be able to get it. Interest rates have absolutely nothing to do with it. People in this price range have $1 million in the bank at least, make $1 million a year. If they're paying 6.5, they can get 5.5 later. Most of them are smart enough to go for an ARM, 5 or 7 years. So they're paying less because of that. That's the kind of buyer. So that's, put that in a jar. But let's talk about vanilla. If you live, let's say in a Toll Brothers community or something where the houses are very similar to each other, and every house has been selling for $500,000, give or take a few dollars based on how fancy the house is. Your house isn't worth $575. No one's going to pay $575. As a matter of fact, if you list it for $575, buyers are going to ignore it. They're going to say this seller's out of his mind. Well, the seller's saying, well, I'll start high and then be able to come down. Doesn't work that way. The other biggest problem is that there are many, 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 and way too many real estate agents who are happy to take your listing at $575 and tell you, oh, it's no problem. I'll get that. It's not a problem. What happens to those listings? They come in about 3 weeks later. Oh, the market's completely changed. And so we need to lower the sale price. They lower it, and then it gets down to 500. Nobody wants it because it's been on the market 120 days. And, the days on market are the killer. Because the longer it stays on the market, the more people ask, hey, what's wrong? So the house ends up then going for $460 because nobody's willing to pay for it. Now, secondary part of this is what we do. We do up front all the disclosures and inspections. So the buyers know what's wrong with the property already. So they're going to price it based on what's wrong. They're going to do it anyway if you didn't give them that, because they're going to do their own inspections. And believe me, somebody might miss one or two things. It happens. But in reality, 99% of the time, they're going to find everything wrong. And then they're going to renegotiate with you. And then you're going to get a lot less. And it just doesn't make any sense. You need to price it to where people are going to say, yeah, I like that house. It's nice. And prices, might be a little high to them because they're buyers and they're trying to negotiate, but it's worth me seeing. And those are the key words. I want to go see it. Get them to go see it. And that's the job of the listing agent. They have to market the property. They have to make those pictures beautiful. They have to make the houses immaculate. What the sellers need to do is pretend they're not sellers. Pretend they're buyers. Maybe you go out and literally find somebody who can come in, somebody you may know, somebody who understands you're trying to sell, but may come in and say, hey, this is all I'll pay for this property. Just, a friend, a cousin, whatever. Let them look at the house with the jaundiced eye of being a buyer, because that's what every buyer is doing. Not every buyer is walking in and saying, oh, I'll overprice. I'm the Sultan of Brunei. It doesn't matter how much money I have or whatever. It doesn't work that way. There are occasional situations where somebody in the neighborhood wants their parents or their kids to live there, and maybe they overpay a little for the convenience of having them close by. But that's, a 1 in a million shot. You have to go by the odds of what 99% of the people are going to do. And that's kind of the answer to your question in a long way, I hope.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple other points too. I mean, there's the buyer psychology of people just know that a house is overpriced, their gut instinct, and they dicker it down. But then there's also there's some hidden issues going on here with like the launch algorithms on Redfin and Zillow. If someone's prices it incorrectly, you only got one shot at a launch, and you're not going to get any more. The algorithm's only going to punish you if you have to do a price reduction.
Exactly.
You killed the listing just by incorrectly pricing it.
I do think Zillow has that estimate. Sometimes sellers will see it before they even list their property, and that is very misleading because Zillow hasn't seen the inside of your house, doesn't really know. And it just has thrown out this number that a lot of sellers are kind of fixated on when they go to list their property.
Yeah, I have that situation now. I came up at like $1.2 million, but it's not. It's maybe worth, close to just below 800. So it's really funny. Once you price a property, the algorithm will change miraculously. So please do not look at those numbers and take them as gospel. It's a guide, if anything, but it's not, you can't use that to price property. And that's why, you get a real estate agent who knows what they're doing, can look at the comparables. We have gotten situations where, I'm in a kind of the sellers see one thing and I see another. And I say to them, look, I'll pay for an appraisal of the property. And that way, that's a professional third-party licensed individual. We say to them, we want to price this based on what it's going to sell for or what we should offer for it. Or, you give us even a little bit of a range. We can go up or down from depending on things that we do. But that kind of brings the discussion to a halt because it's a independent third party.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the absolute best way. But, if you get 2 or 3 or 4 real estate agents you interview and let them bring you the comparables and show you what the value is when they speak to you, then you'll have a better idea. Here's something else to remember. If you list the property, let's say today, and you start getting all the work done and blah, 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 but you're not going to go to market in February, why would you come up with a price now? We don't know what the comparables are going to be that closed, and we don't know what the other houses that are on the market are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing to look at, is not just the sold comps, but the current listings. What else is listed? There are
also
some
has to do with the area too. Not to speak over you, like what Jen was saying about the Z estimate. If you've got a 5-year-old planned community and there's 10 houses for sale, I mean, the community is so young that the chances of all those houses being the same are pretty consistent. But if you're in the avenues of San Francisco and every house is 100 years old, it's very hard to have a comp on what's inside.
Every house is different, right? One could be a duplex, one could be a rundown single family. And again, it's also supply and demand. So your agent has to know what the supply is. We have a link from our title company they send us, and they do this aggregation on every single city in California. I don't know if it's outside California, where it tells you if it's kind of more of a buyer or a seller market. And that's based just on the results of, let's say, the past month of what's going on. So you have an idea. So if it's a complete buyer's market and you're trying to price it like it's a seller's market, again, you're going to have a big problem.
Yeah.
And the listing's going to go stale. So, everybody thinks they're a housing expert. Everybody, knows this, but, there's reasons that you use professional people to figure it out.
Like Mark, it's time for you to get into the conversation. So you're a housing expert and you're about to list a house for sale and the clients come to you and they want to list it for 1.4 million and you know it's only worth 1.1. How do you explain to them the mistake they're making?
That's an excellent question, Drew. Thank you for that. I'm going to give you the 60-second elevator pitch. So basically, it is very simple, and let's just keep it simple. Best buyers show up in the first 1 to 2 weeks. If you're overpriced, they're never going to see a home. And mainly that's because their parameters are set where they're not even going to see you. Home that sits starts looking stale. Buyers wonder what's wrong with it. There could be absolutely nothing wrong with it, but that's the first thing that's coming to mind. Price drops, it attracts bargain hunters. Suddenly everyone wants a deal. They want to pay less than market value, blah, blah, blah. Not good. What you're doing in essence, if you're pricing it too low, you're too high, you're basically helping your neighbor sell their property. Buyers are going to compare the prices, and the fairly priced home is always going to win. Now, if you end up getting an offer for the high, inflated price, the appraisal may not agree with that. So now the deal gets messy or falls apart.
If there's an appraisal contingency.
Right.
Yeah.
So the market, in essence, decides, not the seller. Pricing it right the first time gets you the momentum and better offers. So really, bottom line is, price it right, the market will reward you.
Very well said. So we're talking about overpriced, but is there a hidden cost of underpricing a price just to kind of get a bunch of multiple offers in there in a hot market?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about El Cerrito. We talk about it all the time. There's 2 or 3 brokers who play this game. So the houses that are going to sell, we know for $1.5 million, they advertise them at $800,000. Why did they do that? Very simply, they're attracting buyers, and they're attracting people who don't understand that it's going to go for $1.5 million. So they think, oh, this is great. I can afford this. They go to the house. The agent kind of double talks to them and then tries to talk them into being their buyer broker. That's what it's 100% all about. In the end, they have a bidding war. They have a bid and it goes for $1.5 million. Maybe 2 or 3 people are involved in that bid. So now this agent goes to the next prospective seller and says, I got $700,000 over asking price. Well, the asking price was too low. They forget to say that. So it's a complete fraud. Go and if it's going to go, we think for $1.5 million, you price it at 1,475, 888, or some little bit underneath just to get a little ability to have a little bit of a price war go up. But you're not going to get $1.9 million. It's not going to happen. People know the comps. People are on Redfin and Zillow looking at what they are. The real estate agents are still 25 years ago. And what do I mean by that? They think that people are coming to them and asking them to find them a house because they don't have access to the MLS, when in fact they do. And the same thing with the sellers that are being told who are older, who have no idea about the internet, that, your agent's going to do all this to make sure they get the highest price, when in fact, every buyer is looking at the comps on Redfin or Zillow, and they know what it's worth, and the agents know what it's worth. So, unfortunately, the older people some of them are being taken advantage of by these agents, and either going with that high price like we talked about and saying they're buying the listing, or just, coming up with fallacies that just doesn't exist. It's that simple.
And sometimes when the agents underprice, it backfires for them. Like the house we had Ketya bid on in Alameda, where she had it listed for a certain amount. And then when we had an offer that was a little bit above it, she wanted to meet even higher than the offer. Then the price on Zillow, and he just doesn't want to work with her because he thinks she's a little bit unprofessional and not.
I remember the numbers.
Market.
It was listed for $875. It had 2 major problems, one being knob and tube wiring, which hurts you in trying to get homeowners insurance, by the way, everybody. And then we bid 815 cash deal. She basically ignored it. He comes back to me, like Jen said, like it was a couple of weeks later or something. She says, "Oh, will your clients still take 815? Do it for 815?" And then at the same minute, she's changing the list price to 785. Do you think we're stupid? I mean, really, lady? So it's just, I just don't understand these people. It's nuts. So yeah, it's the underpricing. It can hurt some houses if you underprice too much that they never get it back up to market because the demand isn't there, because it's, maybe a rough property or in the wrong location. So you have to do it. You have to do this underpricing game with a really desirable property. It's the only way it's going to work.
Mhm.
So be careful going the other direction too far on a POS, as they would say.
I'm going to throw another spin on this. We've talked about this in the past, and Mark, you might know something about this. Like in Australia and New Zealand, most of the houses, nearly all the houses are sold via an auction. So you have interested parties, the people do their due diligence. They know what the market research is, just like we do here, but they start with zero and the house gets bid up. But then sometimes you get the frenzy of someone out there in the auction and the auction bids it up. Mark, what are your thoughts on the auction strategy? I know our courts came into the market about 8-10 years ago, trying to do auctions here in the United States.
Yeah, usually REOs, right? They end up on the courtroom step.
No, these aren't foreclosures. These are people just deciding to sell their house via an auction.
Regular retail sellers.
Regular retail?
As we go back to the banks and the banks.
Okay, got you. So we're using the Australia, New Zealand model. I think that is an excellent way to go. It can definitely weed out, only bring in serious buyers, people with cash, they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, it's the same thing. The market, the house is going to speak to the bidders, and the market will decide.
Bring up a good point. The efficiency of the market will decide.
Here's a novel approach that I have always loved. Don't have list prices. Why? Why do you need them? If you're a good buyer broker, you're going to help your buyer buy that house at the right price. So it's your job as a buyer broker to figure out what that price is. And buyers are going to know what they want to pay. So what's the point of the listing price? It really doesn't mean anything. Just give me everything but the price, and I would love that. Here's the neighborhood, here's this. We know the comps. They're there. So go for it. Then you never have this problem. But the problem is I have to put it in the multiple listing service to get it to Redfin and Zillow, and they require that it's in there. So what do? Put it in for $1? If it's $1.5 million? No, nobody's going to see it. So there's also these, we're in a group that does off-market listings, private listings, and they sometimes do a range. That's another thing I don't understand. Oh, it's $1 million to $1.2 million. Like, what? that makes even less sense than setting a price.
I find that in the softer markets, you see a lot of range. You see a lot of range, particularly high-end properties.
Oh, great. And I'm going to go to the lowest end of the range.
Right.
Lower if I'm a buyer.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a wish list.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hope, I guess.
It's appeasing sellers. I mean, unfortunately, there's some sellers who need the prestige of working with a certain type of real estate brokerage because they're fancy and they go all over the world, but the internet goes all over the world. And, there's things that they say they're going to do for them that don't really mean anything. The idea is get the house sold. Every house is going to be different. It's crazy. And then what is the seller's agent actually going to do for you? They can get pictures, but they're going to take them with their Apple iPhone 9, and place them sideways when they should be up and down. I mean, take a look at what an agent's done previously with photographs. Does it entice you to come into the property? They don't, by the way, another thing, you don't need 65 photographs, 3 pictures of an empty room from 3 different angles. Doesn't mean anything. And that's why we get the Matterports or some other 3D. So if you really want to go through it, you can go through it room by room, corner by corner. We just want to give you the highlights. And what we've been doing is digitally staging where applicable and actually putting people into the digital staging so you can tell how you're going to live there. It's a great way to market. It really is. And it's really already worked on one of our houses. It's sold in a week because of it. Once we changed the pictures. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I think it comes back to pricing it right, getting the right buyers in, and obviously the way it's being presented, like you mentioned, Fred. Doing things that are unique that make it stand out, having people in the pictures and envisioning what it would be like to actually live in that home. It's huge.
Exactly.
So Fred, are you going to unveil this new project we've been working on?
We are talking to literally anyone who wants to buy a house in America. Anyone. We don't care if you're an investor, owner-occupant, second home, even commercial property, mostly for residential. So what happens now is you go and you find an agent. And, they're friendly and happy, and you sign a contract with them, and they're going to charge you 2.5% to 3% because that's normal. No, don't do that. Here's the new process to be able to find an agent. You will go to a website called, Drew, what did you decide?
We're still batting around a few. I would say homebuyercashback.com.
Homebuyercashback.com. You'll go there. You'll put a brief bit of information in, and maybe we're going to even have a conversation in Google Meet and talk about what you're looking for in an agent, where you're looking, and all that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go and find you a real estate broker. The first one we're going to look for is someone who's a member of what's called Housing Rebel. Google that, kids. It's an organization that is completely for the higher ethics in real estate. They're not realtors. It is led by this woman named Wendy Gelb, and she does an amazing job. Find her on TikTok, later Wendy. She's full 100% consumer. We love her. So we're going to find somebody hopefully in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to negotiate the comp, help you negotiate the comp. So we're going to get them, we're either going to do one of two things. We're going to kind of beat them down in their total comp, maybe make them do a fixed price. We don't know. But what they're going to do theoretically in the normal way of business, and let's say they're charging, they work for a company and they have to charge 2.5%. That's their minimum. Okay, fine. We're going to tell these agents, and we're going to sign a contract with them to say that they're going to pay us as Arrivva, use this as an example, 25% of the buyer broker commission. So if the buyer broker commission is $10,000, they're paying us $2,500. What we do is we give you back that money less a fixed fee of $750 to do the negotiations for you and kind of keep track of the deal. We can stay on a Slack channel. You can ask us anything. We're not licensed box play in some of these states, but we have a general idea that we can help guide you. And any one of our states that we do mortgages, obviously, you're more than welcome to get fully underwritten pre-approvals with us. So that's kind of the service. And literally everybody in America can do it. Why not? You're going to get money back on every purchase.
Standard referral fee between real estate agents. So you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just taking a very unique spin on something that's been happening for years and giving it back to the consumer.
Right, exactly. And I mean, there might be a way of just getting the agent to deduct the 25% from their total commission. So you get to save that, and then you pay us the $750 at closing as a referral fee, and it'll all be in writing. And we will help evaluate the whole situation for you. And it's like having, I don't know, your parents help you. Who knows real estate? Just another little bit of advice in your ear, but it may help you. It's a second, review of what the agent is doing.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll stay on the thing all the way through the close. And we think it's an amazing service. We're not doing licensing things. We're not preparing contracts. That's the agent to do. We're just talking theories.
You're just basically hiring a trusted advisor for $750. That's going to get you the best
Exactly.
deal nationwide.
Exactly.
And
And
a win-win. I mean, at the end of the day, the consumer is going to have us guiding them through the process and also get a nice little rebate.
right. We'll probably down the road do this for sellers, but we want to do this for buyers first. This way, it's what we do. I've done over, I don't know, $3 billion worth of transactions. Probably more because I've been around since
We already recalculated that. You're probably up to $4 billion now.
who knows. It's inconsequential. It's just
Like the McDonald's sign, billions and billions of hamburgers sold.
billions and billions of dollars.
The other thing is, stay tuned. By the time this episode's out, go to homebuyercashback.com.
There you go.
Let's do this little last round robin of what's top of mind. Jen, what's top of mind for you today?
We know what's on top of her mind. We got this.
Well, I will be taking a little bit of a leave from the podcast for a couple months because I'm going to have a baby at some point this month, maybe Thursday.
Congratulations.
But I'll be back by probably March and just ready to hit the ground running. So
Yeah, enough diaper changing.
yeah.
Awesome. Sending you positive thoughts. How about you, Mark?
Yes.
Well, looking forward to the holidays like everyone. We've got our adult children coming home, so that's going to be nice. And excited for what's ahead. I think we've got a lot of exciting things planned with the company. And like what Fred just mentioned, our nationwide program. And on top of that, I think we're in a good position where we'll be able to help buyers and sellers into next year. So exciting times.
Awesome. And Fred, lead us out.
Well, I'm back in Los Angeles. We're at 70 degrees. This morning I was in San Francisco where it was about 48 degrees and I was wearing a giant parka. So those of you coming to California and going to San Francisco, it's cold there. Bring warm clothes. That's the best thing I can tell you. And bring the big jacket. The wind has been crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So, same thing in August, but what's the old expression? The summer I spent in San Francisco was the harshest winter I've ever spent, or something like
The
that.
coldest winter I ever spent was the summer in San Francisco.
That was just it was turning around. So
You
yeah,
did a
guys.
morning round trip to LA to San Francisco and back?
Oh no, not today. I've been there since.
You flew in this morning and flew back out. Oh,
Yeah, we have about to be 3 listings up there.
Oh,
So
amazing.
we have, I think we talked about that before, this penthouse in Yerba Buena. It's really awesome. A gigantic 6,000 plus square foot Toll Brothers house in Morgan Hill that's going for 4.2 basically. If it's in Cupertino, it's 8 million. So you don't have to commute a lot. And by the way, 3 people showed up yesterday from NVIDIA at the open house. So NVIDIA stock I saw went up again today. I was saying, okay, this is great. Come on and buy. So our buyer is going to be from NVIDIA. There's no doubt about it. So good for all those people. They got the stock options and everything, and they're driving the high end market. And along with the Apple and Google and startup people and medicine, that's what it is. We're kind of sheltered in that area. Whereas you go to somewhere in the country, and this is what you hear, the national news, prices are going down, values, nobody's buying. Yeah. Everywhere is completely different. Every neighborhood's completely different. Every house is completely different. So ignore all the national news. Just look at where you're looking for, period.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best advice I can give you, and block the rest of it out.
Well, on that note, very sound advice. This has been another episode of We Fixed Real Estate.